What to expect when you're expecting. Rapture Edition. We're going to be talking about different aspects of Matthew 24. Things that Jesus said we should be looking for before his return. What exactly are we looking for in Matthew 24:7? So, Matthew 24:7 actually reads, "For nation will rise up against nation." But when we go into the Blue Letter Bible, we find out that the translation is a little different. When going through this study tool, we find out that the word nation actually is G1484, which means ethnos or race. So with that being said, a slightly more correct translation would be, for ethnos, race, will rise up against ethnos, race.
This morning, a community in shock in Buffalo, New York.
When I first saw him shooting, he shot a woman, he shot a deacon, he shot another woman, and then he went in the store and started shooting again.
10 people shot dead and 3 more injured after a gunman opened fire at a Tops-friendly supermarket in a predominantly black neighborhood.
This is the worst nightmare that any community can face.
One's gun secure. One suspect is in custody.
The suspect, identified as 18-year-old Peyton Gendron, has been arraigned on 1 count of first-degree murder and held without bail. Authorities say he drove there from 200 miles away and live-streamed the attack that is now being investigated as a hate crime.
This was pure evil. It was straight up racially motivated hate crime from somebody outside of our community.
Police say around 2:30 Saturday afternoon, the suspect wearing body armor and a tactical helmet first fired at 4 people in the parking lot, killing 3.
We're going to need some officers inside the Tops because we have numerous bodies.
The shooter then entered the grocery store, shooting 9 others, including a retired Buffalo police officer who confronted him. The guard fired multiple shots that hit the suspect, but that didn't stop him. He was wearing protective tactical gear. The heavily armed gunman fatally shooting the guard moments later.
I still don't even believe it happened, actually, that a person would go into a supermarket full of people.
Police arriving at the chaotic scene, taking the alleged shooter into custody.
There were people showing up, asking about their loved ones.
Among the victims, 4 of them store employees.
My granddaughter works here. She heard the shooting, so she took herself and ran in the bathroom and locked the door.
I frequent this store all the time. I've never been afraid to be here. I am now. This is something that I watch on the news that happens in other places.
A witness describes the motionless bodies on the ground.
I saw the police cover her, and then they cover somebody that was behind her. And I realized at the time that those were dead bodies.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul calling attention to reports the suspect had a camera and was live streaming the shooting, condemning social media platforms that she said were not censoring hateful and violent content.
I'm asking them to take responsibility for monitoring the hate speech and the calculated plans that are right there in plain view. Help work with us with your responsibility as the individuals who profit from these platforms.
The NAACP making a statement saying hate and racism have no place in America.
Police in the American state of Wisconsin have detained the driver of a vehicle which drove at speed into a Christmas parade in the city of Waukesha, killing 5 people and injuring nearly 50 others. The vehicle hit members of a marching band, and a local hospital says it's treated 18 children among the injured. Our correspondent Barbara Platt-Usher sent this report.
This little girl narrowly escaped with her life. She had no idea what was hurtling towards her. And here, the moment when the joy and festivity of the Christmas parade turned to horror and tragedy. A vehicle traveling at full speed struck members of a marching band. The driver continued forward, hitting and running over others in his path. These young dancers perfectly in step one moment, the next brutally disrupted. People, families, and children ran for their lives. Others tried to save those crumpled on the pavement.
It was just carnage, liking it to a war zone. There were adults, children that were injured. Some of our first responders were there with our families. They left their families to treat people, helped with instant command, helped transport.
The suspect is a local man, Daryl Brooks, an aspiring rapper. He posted this video on his YouTube channel, including what looks like the red vehicle used in the hit and run. Court documents show he has a lengthy criminal record. Police said he had fled a domestic disturbance and that he had acted alone. But the result was devastating. This was the president's message to a community in mourning.
Last night, the people of Waukesha were gathered to celebrate the start of a season of hope and togetherness and Thanksgiving. This morning, Jill and I and the entire Biden family, and I'm sure all of us, pray that that same spirit's going to embrace and lift up all the victims of this tragedy.
This afternoon, the police cordon came down and the road reopened.
But nothing feels back to normal. In the coming days, there will be opportunities to grieve and remember the victims together. But right now, the town is only just beginning to absorb the shock and loss. Barbara Platt-Usher, BBC News, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
21-year-old Dylan Roof could hear the families, but he could not see them. Bond was set at $1 million on one of the charges. Justice correspondent Jeff Pegues has more from that hearing. Jeff?
Scott, Dylan Roof is being held in a jail cell in a building behind this barbed wire fence. We're told that he's in solitary confinement and under suicide watch.
What is your age?
21. Dylan Roof stood emotionless as he heard the charges against him. 9 counts of murder for the 3 men and 6 women investigators say he gunned down Wednesday night.
Charleston is a very strong community. We have big hearts.
From the bench, Chief Magistrate James Gosnell expressed sympathy and support for both the victims of the shooting and Roof's family.
We must find it in our heart at some point in time not only to help those that are victims, but to also help his family as well.
All units responding, 110 Calhoun State.
Active shooter, multiple people down.
New details emerged today about Wednesday's horrific rampage. According to a warrant for his arrest, Roof, seen here on surveillance video, entered Emmanuel AME Church around 8:06 p.m. wearing a fanny pack. After attending a Bible study class for an hour, the court documents say he stood up and pulled out a handgun and began shooting. All 9 victims were shot multiple times. The warrant says that before Roof left, he stood over a witness and uttered a racially inflammatory statement. CBS News has learned Roof told a witness that he had spared her life so she could tell others what happened. In addition to her, a woman and a 5-year-old boy also survived by playing dead. Joseph Riley is the mayor of Charleston, South Carolina.
I knew many of these people. I admired them and loved them and worked with them. And so it's the hardest thing I've done in this job and probably the hardest thing I'll do in my life.
Roof evaded capture for more than 12 hours. According to the warrant, Roof's father and uncle recognized him from the surveillance image released to the public and contacted the Charleston Police Department. Roof's father also told police his son owned a .45 caliber handgun. When Roof was apprehended in Shelby, North Carolina yesterday, law enforcement sources say a Glock 41, a .45 caliber handgun, was found in his car. He was arrested and taken to the Shelby police station.
Why did you do it?
Law enforcement sources say during an interrogation, Roof revealed that he had been planning the attack for some time and that he chose the church because it was an historic African-American church. Sources say he also revealed that while he was sitting in the Bible study, he considered abandoning his plan, but then changed his mind because a source says he thought if he didn't do it, no one else would. If convicted, Roof could get the death penalty. And Scott, we learned today that the Department of Justice is investigating this case as both a hate crime and an act of domestic terrorism.
Jeff Pegues on the investigation for us tonight. Jeff, thank you very much.
You can't go out there.
course it is. This won't bring him back. It won't make you feel any better. Don't do this.
It's late. You need to leave.
Traffic is building rapidly downtown as citizens rush to get home before commencement. If you're not purging, we advise you to get off the streets as quickly as possible. It'll soon be a war out there. It'll soon be a war out there. It'll soon be a war out there.
This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge. At the siren, all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 hours. All emergency services will be suspended. Your government thanks you for your participation.
What is this?
What I want you to understand about this video is that these things are increasing and they're getting worse. This spirit is being fed. It is the manifestation of God's word in Matthew 24. And you're going to see more of this. I want you to really think about it. Everything that you saw in 2020, unfortunately, for those who are not intimately connected to Jesus Christ, you're going to see this again. What you saw in 2020, you're going to see it again, but this time it's going to be for real. And this time it's not going to stop. And this time it's going to be instigated. And this time there's going to be a real principality power behind it. The refuge is Christ Jesus. The escape is Jesus Christ. If you are not putting your faith in that, then you are setting yourself up for failure. This takes me to a conversation that I had with a friend of mine. He is being taught by his spiritual leader in false religion. He is being taught how to survive the next 7 years. It's a lecture series that they're going through. How to survive the next 7 years. And I'm thinking to myself, I wanted to break down into tears right then at that moment, because he's being taught how to survive the 7 years of God's wrath upon the earth, rather than being taught how to connect to the true and living God, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, the Christ, and escape what's about to come upon the earth. I'm saying it very simply. If you don't know Jesus, you better get to know him. Because if you're placing your faith in anything else, as someone who has been there, done it all, tried it all, if you're counting on anything other than Yeshua, you're setting yourself up for death, hell, and destruction. I love you. I know it's firm. I know it's a little strong. But I'd rather you hate me for telling you the truth than you loving me for telling you lies. You better get right with Christ. We better get right with Christ. We don't have a lot of time. This is part 1. We're going to continue with more of the Matthew 24 series. What to expect when you're expecting.